Waterwight, Book 1 of the Waterwight series. Part 1, The Big Water. Chapter 1. She was done with it. The heavy metal door complained at being pulled open in the midst of a gloomy night. Filled with the jitters, Celeste felt her senses tingle as she ran into the chilling darkness. She ran until she was breathless, stopping to lean against a broken streetlight near an abandoned house far from the children's home. Startled by the speed of her escape, she took a moment to look around and realized she had no idea where she was. What now, genius? She pretended not to feel the fear rising in her chest. Without a hint of daylight to be seen, she'd soon be shivering. She dashed to the back of a dilapidated structure and looked through a small window. All was dark. The back door was open, and cautiously she stepped inside. After years of living with the other orphaned girls, had it been 3 years? Maybe 4? She had made no close friends, despite her efforts at coaxing them to share their past lives. No one within the cheerless walls would talk about the event that left so many children orphans. They simply called it the event. And after a while, everyone just seemed to forget. But Celeste never forgot. She grew to hate her life in the stark, hollow building with its repetitive days and its people with their blank faces. They weren't bad people. They were just cold, like everything around her. "Come on," she had once begged, dragging her bunkmate behind the only apple tree on the property during playtime. "Tell me about your family. Tell me about how you got here." She had the timid girl pinned against the giant tree. "Leave me alone!" the girl had screamed, squirming out from under Celeste's surprisingly powerful grip and running to one of the caretakers. The older woman approached her then. "Mustn't be a busybody," she admonished, but her eyes showed more fear than reproach. "Why won't you tell me what happened?" Celeste shouted back, arms crossed. She had been barely alive when strangers had found her in the rubble of what was once her cozy home, but that was all she knew. "Mustn't, just mustn't. Now run along and be a good girl like the others," was all the woman had to say before leaving Celeste alone behind the tree. The others had stopped questioning the mystery, but Celeste could not, and she could not imagine trudging through another day without trying to find the answer to why her parents and everything from her past life had disappeared. "Let's get out of here," she had recently whispered to another girl during dinner. She wanted a buddy to explore the world beyond the confines of the home with her. "Don't you ever want to grow up? What are we, like 14 already? Don't you want to see what's out there? They treat us like babies here, and this food—" But the girl had moved her tray to the next table and never looked back. Celeste tossed and turned that night until a startling message woke her from a recurring nightmare. She was always in the same place, perched at the edge of a frightful precipice, in knowing she'd have to jump. But this time, something changed in her dream. Getting ready to jump from the ledge, she removed the emerald green scarf that matched her eyes and held back her mass of tangled black curls. She let it drop and watched its swirling, dizzying descent. Lightheaded from peering over the edge to watch as her scarf disappeared, she pulled back and caught her breath. And then a man with a French accent called to her. There's an easier way down. Come, come inside. She turned toward the voice and saw a window where none existed before. "Who's there?" she called, standing on shaky legs. She got no response, but moved to the window. If there was an easier way down, she wanted to find it. "You must trust me, ma petite." The voice became clearer as the window opened. She stepped through the window, leaving the dangerous ledge behind her. She'd never have to jump again. Waking from her dream in the cold room and hearing fitful sounds from the sleeping girls around her, girls who'd never be brave enough to abandon their easy routine, she decided to leave the place that would never be home. Celeste shoved her meager possessions into a small gray bag: blue jeans, a few old shirts, her favorite green scarf, and a diary with a lock, the key to which she wore around her neck. After one last look around, she removed the name tag from the foot of her bed and slipped it into the plastic pocket on the outside of the bag. She donned a worn leather jacket with her initials, C-A-N, embroidered on the worn lining. A feeling of guilt washed over her when she thought of how excited her parents were when they had given her the expensive gift to mark her first decade of life. It had been far too big for her at the time, and she'd refused to wear the baggy garment. She wished they could see how much she treasured their gift now. But they were gone, and she didn't know why. How she wished for someone to trust, someone to tell her everything would be okay, someone to make her feel safe and loved again. With curiosity and determination, she had overpowered her fear of the unknown, but she hadn't planned anything beyond leaving the children's home. Her heart beat loudly while she waited for her eyes to adjust to the darkness in the abandoned house. She dropped her bag near the door. Soon she could make out kitchen shapes. Maybe she wasn't alone. 8 glowing eyes stared at her from the opposite corner of the room. "Please, oh, please be cats and not a mutant creature," she whispered. She didn't move a muscle. Then voices broke the silence. "Of course we're cats, love," said one. "Mutant creature indeed," said the next. "Silly Celeste," said another, with eyes focused on the Celeste Araya Nolan name tag in the clear pocket of her bag. "Come, curl with us, sleep," said a fourth cat, and Celeste thought she must still be dreaming. Perhaps she had not yet left the frightening ledge of her nightmare, had not yet run away. Her dreams often jumped from scene to scene without making any sense. And how else would they know my name? She wondered. The furry mass didn't move, but the sound of a rumbling purr drew her trance-like toward the animals. They parted to let her kneel among them. Unafraid and believing she was dreaming, Celeste stroked the warm fur of her strange new friends and felt a pang in her heart when she realized there had been no animals at the children's home. There had been no talk of animals, just as there had been no talk of anything that happened before her rescue. How could she have forgotten about holding the plump puppy her father had brought home shortly before the event? She had forgotten about many things, and her mind raced to remember. Memories of shaking and shouting and deafening noise came back to her, overpowering her. She couldn't hold back her tears. The cats rubbed against her, coaxing her to curl up in their midst. She crumbled to the floor, her cry turning to a soft whimper, and soon she was warm and fast asleep. The low rumble, miles and miles away, echoed through the air and mingled with a sound that was both words and melody. A message? But she couldn't understand it. It sounded like a child singing in a language from a faraway land. She could smell bacon, and she could almost distinguish the face of her mother standing in a strange doorway. That ends Chapter 1, Part 1 of Waterwight, Book 1 of the Waterwight series.